Bearcat Blitz, the final football-centric show of the year for us here on Bearcat Blitz. I'm your host, Russ Eltman, joined by this man right in front of me. Final appearance as the co-host for the foreseeable future out of Dominick Goodman. I'm sure we'll bring him on every now and again for a little football check-in. And when news presents itself, as it did right before we started recording this morning on Bearcat Blitz, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, Google, Spotify, all that good stuff. Talking Cats with Russ Heltman, my YouTube page. Check us out there on Bally Sports Ohio, which this show will be airing on Bally Sports Ohio this weekend as a little wrap-up of the Bearcats' disastrous, horrific, brutal 2023 season. I know I had as much fun as possible with Dom covering it for y'all, you guys. We tried to have fun. We brought it. He brought up the cornbread. He brought out the helmet at times. We did our best to have fun with it, but the season comes to a close with a just shinning at the hands of the Kansas Jayhawks. I didn't think they really had a shot to win the game, but I didn't think they would get blown out like they did. A 30-plus point loss at home for the first time since getting destroyed by West Virginia in the opening season of Big East play for Cincinnati, just like they got destroyed by Kansas in the opening season of Big East or of Big 12 play, a different big in terms of conferences. This time around was the first 30-plus point loss at home since that fateful day back in 2005. Get to that and some portal news in just a moment. We'll bring in Dom after I tell you about Bet Online. It is the spot this holiday season to get your wagering info and wagers in. This holiday season is off and rolling, and with the NFL in full stride and NBA and NHL hitting midseason form, Bet Online is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info. With up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions, Bet Online is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports, and not just the Big Four. Bet Online has info available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that is played. From MMA to international soccer, head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on that first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Dom, welcome in, my man. 49-16 loss to Kansas, and I'll kind of drop the news right here as we welcome you in. UC's third leading rusher, Myles Montgomery, and their highest graded player on PFF this season is entering the transfer portal. Made that announcement right before we started recording here on Monday, November 27th. A loss on the field and looking like a loss in the running back room in less than 48, 72-hour span, Mr. Goodman.
I mean, it's a tough one, man. I mean, like you talked about that 2005 year, that was my freshman year when we went to the Big East. So,
right.
I mean, it's just
unfortunate full circle moment for you in 2023 to 2005, Dom. I'm sorry to bring up that bad memory.
It's all good, man. It made us stronger. We ended up bonding together and just told each other this ain't gonna happen again. So we just got better out through the years. It's kind of devastating. I mean, I know the season didn't turn out like what people expected or wanted, but it's just people got to understand, the Big 12. I mean, it's different from the American. We came in the season with guys already transferred out of when Fickle left. We were scratching to get guys transfers, and guys are filling different roles in different spots. So it was going to be a difficult season. But people transferring already, it's kind of like, dang, at least give it a try. But you got to respect everybody's decision. Everybody got they want to see a different outcome. Whatever their purpose is, it's just one of them things. It's tough to see, and I wish they could stick with it. But, it's a different day and age of college football where everybody's in the transfer portal.
That they are, my man. That they are. Myles Montgomery exits the program for now. We'll see if he actually finds a home. Obviously, Shimon Mater, when portaling last year, ended up coming back to the team. It happens where guys end up coming back, but it would be a little surprising with a guy like Myles Montgomery with his talent level and just what he's able to show this year. I mean, he averaged over 6 yards per carry. He was, as I mentioned, the highest graded player on the team throughout the entire season, 83.1 overall. But he was just narrowly ahead in that sense of Corey Kiner, who was, I believe, right behind Luke Kandra for the top in terms of the top three players on offense this season. Yeah, actually, Kiner was right ahead of Kandra. 83.1 for Montgomery, 81.4 for Kiner, 80.5 for Kandra. The only three players graded 80 or better throughout the entire season. Obviously, you don't want to lose a guy like that in Myles Montgomery, but you have Corey Kiner right there. Just went over 1,000 yards. He's going to be your bell cow back going into next season. He told you and I, Dom, how much it means to him to have his family here every week for games, to have his family be able to go to almost every game in the season. I don't see him. It would be stunning. I should frame it this way. Stunning to me if a guy like Corey Kiner also entered the transfer portal along with a guy like Myles Montgomery. I don't see that happening. And as long as that doesn't happen, the running back room, as we're going to get to after the break, in terms of position groups that are going to be solid moving forward, the running back room should be pretty solid. And Dom, it shouldn't be a position where you ultimately have to commit a massive amount of NIL money, a massive amount of transfer resources, I think, towards that spot when you got so many guys coming up in the development path as it is. And the fact that over Scott Satterfield's career as a head coach and as a recruiter, he's done a great job bringing in just a stable, a consistent level, a consistent grouping of running back talents in terms of recruits and the such. Manny Covey, freshman last year, and we'll go through it with the look at the 2024 recruiting class in the back half of the show. But they did lose Jason Patterson, unfortunately, from that recruiting class. He was their highest graded offensive player, highest ranked offensive player in terms of being a running back there. But overall, this isn't a spot where you have to commit a ton of resources, I would think, to shore it back up going into next year. It should be pretty safe, despite losing Montgomery and Ryan Montgomery, who has exhausted his eligibility after playing his sixth year in college this year.
Yeah, I mean, the running back room's solid. You go to the O-line, solid. I think they just got to really just tone into the main spots. That's the receiver spot and the quarterback spot on the offense. But having that to build from is not it's not a panic mode. I think that's great because that's something you can really focus on going in for next year. Like, okay, we got a run game, we got our line back, a running back room, cool. We just got to make sure we got the receivers, the tight ends, and the quarterback to make it all happen. So that's one positive I feel like going into the next season.
Real quickly, I mean, we kind of danced around it a little bit. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but 49-16 loss to Kansas. It was just kind of a sad, embarrassing effort in my eyes, Dom. That just you go up 3-0, you're up at the end of the first quarter, and then you get boat race 21-7 in the second quarter. You give up another touchdown, man. I mean, I can't believe this happened a second time this season. You give up another touchdown with less than a minute left on the half clock. It was just absurd. I mean, actually, was that the third time it's happened? Yeah, because it happened against West Virginia too. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy what this team has ultimately put out in terms of performances week to week this entire season, in terms of the expectation people had entering this year. I mean, on that touchdown, it goes perfect encapsulation of this. I was sitting in the press box, Dom. They're moving their way down the field in the end of the first half. Ryan Roberts, I think of Riverfront Cincy, the outlet he works for. He looks over at me and says, "Russ, the middle field's wide open, man. They're gonna throw a touchdown right in the middle of the field, right here." And what had happened? What happened? Nay, 2 seconds later, Dom. Jason Bean, Mason Fairchild, 26 yards, basically curtains. That was the ball game right there. I mean, I can't give the energy I gave last week. I already gave my entire spiel last week. I'm not going to give the same spiel again here, but man, it's like, it doesn't feel like any of the problems got fixed at all throughout the entire season. Perfect example, Jordan Young. Let's just look at him. Played a nice game a couple weeks ago in the victory over Houston. Comes out and posts sub 55 or sub 60 grades in the ensuing 2 games. Does not capitalize or build on any of that momentum from Houston, and you got a massive question mark there. Kalen Carroll, another good example. A guy that flashes here and there from time to time, flashes some solid ball skills, had a couple PBUs, but was absolutely terrorized in this game. And I mean, Dom, on targets with defenders in coverage. So this isn't just overall targets. This is just targets with defenders in coverage, guys that aren't running wide open. Kansas, according to PFF, went 13 of 15, mind you, with a backup quarterback and third string quarterback playing. 13 of 15 for 2 touchdowns and a perfect NFL passer rating of 158.3. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do. In a game where Dante Corleone plays arguably his best football all season, it never mattered for a second. He couldn't impact the game really at all because the secondary is that bad from top to bottom. I mean, Brian Threats was awful in this game. Taj Ward was awful in this game. Kalen Carroll, Jordan Young. No, you cannot operate at this level of college football with the lack of talent, the lack of speed, which was fully on display on those 2 touchdowns by the second string, I will keep hammering it home, quarterback of the Kansas Jayhawks, running down your throat for not 1, but 2 40-plus yard read option touchdowns. And they had another touchdown by the third stringer, Dom, get called back for a hold, which was a little bit of an affecting part of the play, but I don't even think the quarterback got touched on that play. So, man, it's just, there's not much more new stuff we can offer here, but the team, the staff, everything needs to be reevaluated, especially when you think about a defense that we're going to get into in just a second, that's going to be losing almost all of its best players to either graduation, NFL draft declarations. We'll see what happens with Dante Corleone in that sense there. That's the only guy in this defense that can get drafted, is projected to get drafted, and just other turnover in terms of the transfer portal, which we've just seen from Myles Montgomery. But, man, did anything look different to you in terms of that performance on Saturday compared to West Virginia? Because nothing looked different for me. And just in terms of a pride aspect, in terms of a playing for your home fans who showed out way better than I expected them to, claps to the fans. They came to play. The players did not. They haven't come to play all season long. And you go down with a home record in 2023 that's the worst this century, just like so many other things that have been the worst this century.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's something that I kind of expected because, like I said, this season kind of reminded me of my freshman year.
Where you're just kind of playing out the string a little bit.
You know, just when you ain't going to a bowl game, man, it's tough. It's tough to get guys going for practice. It's tough to get guys going for the game because you're just like, what are we playing for? We're playing for the seniors. That's cool. But cause I remember our last game we played against Rutgers, and we got to go there. Guys didn't want to make the trip. Guys wasn't trying to make the traveling sky. Guys wasn't even – we ended up getting the doors blown off on us just because guys just basically chalked it up. And that's what you kind of seen. It was kind of good to see. I mean, they gave it that first quarter. They was out there giving it their all. And then things just started unraveling. And it just showed. Just showed. I mean, when you're in situations like this, it's tough to play for. But at the same time, it's like you said, is when you got a crowd, a fan coming to the game, like I don't think people – that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. Before we went to the Big East, we didn't have nobody in the stands. Mm-hmm. Nobody. Even with the Menor years, even years beyond, there was nobody in the stands. And for Dar, we having people in the stands now showing up like they did, even though it says a lot. So at the same time, it's just one of them things that hurts because being an alumni, you like, man, like it's the last game, senior year, just at least just make it entertaining. But I'm not asking you to blow them out, get a win. Just let's make it entertaining for the simple fact you got people that's coming out here in the cold, showing their support, showing their love. Just last game, just give it your all. But, I mean, it's one of those situations where you just got to – it sucks being a player in that situation, but I understand from everybody's frustrations. But it's one of those things I just want to remind people, just understand it's the first year. Mm-hmm. If you want to go back and look at when we went to the Big East in 2005, you start seeing similar results. So I just want people to just understand, just don't give up on the Bearcats. Still continue buying the season tickets and just see what happens with this recruiting and what we do for next season.
Over 1,100 yards of offense allowed in the final 2 games of the season. It's almost it's shocking to have it come out of my mouth. 1,100 yards of offense and almost 90 points allowed in the final 2 games.
So you make it so tough when you hit the numbers. You throw the numbers out, it just makes me like, dang, man, like I'm over here trying to give the positivity, trying to let people understand, like, don't give up on them. And then you like, listen, Dominic, the numbers, they don't lie. They don't. But it sucks to hear, man. It just sucks. You keep going. I'll just have to let you know it hurts, man.
I can tell. I know. I get it, Dom. It's just I want to cover a winning team too. When this team at the end of 2021, when I first started doing this, first started getting on the Bearcats beat last year, even it was still a lot of fun when you're fighting for an AAC title berth down the stretch of the season. But it takes its toll, man. It takes its toll on the team. Everyone losing takes its toll. And it clearly has taken a toll in my eyes on just the effort and the consistency level of that unit, especially. Like it completely fell off the rails down the stretch of the season. It went from a unit that we thought this team could bank on, especially down the back half of the year with the depth along the defensive line. And that just never really happened. And in terms of offense, I will give a shout out here to DeAndre Buford. He played his best game as a Bearcat in the finale of this one. The offensive line as a whole, Dominic, that's the best thing you could take away from this season. It was the best thing you could take away from Saturday. They kept Emory Jones or Brady Lichtenberg clean. Only 1 QB hit on the day allowed. They've done a great job. Not a great job, but a better job more consistently over the past month of doing better in pass protection and giving you some confidence there going into next year. Everybody stayed healthy on that group throughout the entire season. Everybody got to gel a little bit better throughout the entire season. We'll see what the competition looks like for right tackle next year, but I am impressed with that unit. The offensive line is something you can definitely hang your hat on. Luke Kandra, solid once again in this one, has the highest grade of any offensive player in the game, 76.8 overall on PFF. Gavin Gerhardt was solid despite a couple penalty issues, and this one had 3 penalties, which you never like to see, but overall played well. Very good pass blocking unit overall in general from this game. So very good performance from the offensive line. Corey Kiner played well again. D. Wiggins showed up, played well for the first time in 8 weeks. It feels like 10 weeks. He was actually getting open, Dominic. He was not just running cardio in terms of his routes on Saturday evening. Team high, 4 catches for 37 yards and a touchdown. Not going to wow anybody, but despite the lacking stat line, in my eyes, from the bird's eye view up in the press box, he was getting open more consistently than he had most of the season. So that's something good to see. Although he is, I think, a guy that is exhausting his last year of eligibility this year. So going to be a new face in that role going into 2024. But other than that, I mean, Brady Lichtenberg, I think we kind of saw that we've seen enough in my eyes through these final 6 weeks of the season to know that he's probably not going to be your guy going into 2024 and beyond. So we'll get to a quick break here on Bearcat Blitz as UC falls in the season finale 49-16 at the hands of Jason Bean and the Kansas Jayhawks. Touch on the team as a whole and look at what they might need to touch up on in the offseason. Get a check-in on that 2024 recruiting class after this message right here on Bearcat Blitz. All right, Dom, let's dive into it real quick. Rapid fire rundown of what UC is looking at this offseason. What position groups do you think don't need help? Let's start on offense. Let's get the position groups out of the way that don't need help. I will say definitely offensive line and really running back. Those are the 2 spots to me that don't need any help, but everywhere else, tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, you need some new bodies. You need some fresh blood all across the board.
Yeah, I agree with that. They really got to really heavily recruit for that receiver position. Because that's
try to retain Henderson, I think, is a top goal for this current roster, is trying to retain him and Jackson as the 2 top guys for next year, most likely.
And also recruit some more guys to develop. You know, it doesn't hurt. Like I said, you need those guys to push the receivers, push competition is not a bad thing in a position room, and I think that's something that they really need to focus on for next season, because seeing this conference is a passing conference, and you gotta have receivers that can get open and make those plays.
No doubt. Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, what will happen with Dante Corleone? That's the massive, massive shoe that's going to drop for this football team. Can you find a way to sweeten that NIL pot, to do whatever you can possibly do to make sure he does not chase what is going to be most likely at highest back end of the first round money, at lowest middle to back end of the second round money? Can you figure out a way to retain Dante Corleone? Because if not, Dom, Corleone gone, Van gone. Deshaun Pace, I would expect him to graduate and move on, if not to a different school, then to pursue the NFL. That's another guy gone. Jalen Hunt, not sure about his eligibility. He might be able to get retained, but Jalen Briggs gone. I mean, your top 12 defenders, 5 to 6 of those guys in terms of your top 12 graded defenders on PFF are most likely are a decent chance to be gone from the roster next year. In my eyes, like, I don't know if there's a spot on the defense that doesn't need help. To be truly honest, I don't know if there is a spot, especially if Dante Corleone leaves. Every spot on that unit could get upgraded, in my opinion, or is a spot that you need guys like Jonathan Thompson to keep developing in. He got a start on Saturday, played almost a full diet of snaps. He looked very, very good, played his best career game. Maybe that can be your surefire starter at linebacker next year alongside a more developed Jack Dingle. Maybe you don't need to go look at linebacker. Maybe you're feeling okay there, but outside of that, there's a lot of problems on this defense.
Yeah, it's open. I mean, defensive side is just open. I feel like it's one of those situations you go into a kid's house recruiting, like, listen, if you want to play, here's your opportunity. It's just open. I mean, it's because the defense was the only thing I felt like that we was all saying, like, that's the defense gonna hold the Bearcats and keep them in games, which they did. And, it just unraveled towards the end of the season. But they just gonna have to do a whole bunch of especially with the secondary. That's a big thing I think they probably gonna focus on, is getting the secondary guys, and then also getting the guys, the D-line. Because, linebackers, I'm not too – I feel like they didn't play too bad. But I feel like they got to be able to replace those guys, though, as well. And that's going to be some tough shoes to fill with Corleone. Hopefully Corleone's like, listen, I want to stay and finish as a Bearcat, get my degree. I mean, put on because you're a Colerain guy, so but you gotta do what's right for you. And it's just it's tough, man. It's hearing all that, it's like, man, like, whew. There's gonna be a lot of heavy recruiting, a whole bunch of. It's gonna be a new season. I mean, new team next year, and we just gotta wait and see.
Yep. Unfortunately, coming to a close on our time here on Bearcat Blitz as we walk out of here. Big note: recruiting class entering for 2024, about to sign all their NLIs over the next couple of weeks. Second best recruiting class this decade for Cincinnati, just behind the 2020 class, I believe, which was ranked 41st overall on 24/7 Sports. Cincinnati ranked 44th right now with roughly a little over 20 commits on the board. So I like the way they're building it that way. Build through to recruiting, not as much through the transfer portal. Try to set a foundation through recruiting and get it done that way. Dom, the floor is yours, man. Real quick, goodbye to everybody as we wrap up the 2023 Cincinnati Bearcats football run on Bearcat Blitz.
I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Russ for allowing me on the show. My honor, man. I had a whole bunch of fun. This is something I never done the podcast thing. Well, I did some blogging back in my early days. I mean, Goody's Corner on YouTube. You want to check it out? It's kind of funny. That's been like before all the Final Cut Pro. This is during Windows time. But other than that, I mean, I had fun. I love the Bearcats, always will, no matter what, ups, downs, whatever. I'm Bearcat till I die. It's in my blood, it's in my veins. So I'm just excited, and hopefully I can be on next time. But just once again, thank you to Believe, thank you to the Bearcats. Just thank you for everybody for tuning in. I had a blast.
For Dom Goodman, I'm Russ Heltman. Been a lot of fun. Love having Dom on the show. We'll definitely keep it rolling into 2024 and what will, for Bearcats fans, hopefully be a more enjoyable season on the gridiron. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network.